Okay, hello everybody and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. You just joined SheCanCode's Women in Gaming, How to Forge a Career in the Industry live webinar. I am your host for today. I'm Katie Batesman, the Content Director at SheCanCode. For those tuning in who aren't familiar with us, SheCanCode is a global community with a mission to close the tech gender gap. We use content marketing and events to engage, inspire and attract more diverse communities to the tech sector. Now, before I introduce our speakers, please note that we have a live Q&A session running throughout today. So please submit your questions throughout and we will try and get to them at the end. So let's kick off with my wonderful guest for today, Maria Paskevich, Senior Data Scientist at King, Berivan Uçan, Associate Systems Engineer at Riot Games, Katja Ulbrich, Director of Digital Product Management and UX at OpenBet, and Jacki Vause, Founder and CEO of Dimoso PR. Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us all today. We got so much to cram into today, ladies. So we're actually going to kick off with the discussion with a little bit about each of you to set the scene. Maria, can we kick off with you, please?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me. I'm Maria. I work as a senior data scientist for King. That's a game developer behind very popular mobile game Candy Crush Saga. And I've been working in game industry for like almost 10 years now, I think. So seeing it starting with the first smartphones and where we are now with almost 3 billion gamers all over the world. And all this time I was working in different data related roles. So doing product analytics, doing a lot of experimentation and A/B testing, and now some machine learning solutions for improving game experience for people. Yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you for joining us today. And Berivan, yourself, please.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Berivan. I am working at Riot Games as an associate systems engineer. I am in the beginning of my career in gaming. I graduated as an industrial engineer and worked as a manufacturing and process engineer for a while. But I love games and I wanted to transition into the gaming industry. So now I'm working with Riot Games and I'm in cloud infrastructure engineering.
Amazing. I always think it's so brave when people say they're transitioning into a new career. So we're going to touch upon that probably a little bit later, Berivan. Katja, yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Katja. I'm the director of digital at OpenBet. OpenBet itself is a B2B sports betting platform supplier. And in my role, I'm looking after the digital side of the whole product management suites, as well as the UX team. And I've been with OpenBet for more than 5 years now. I did start this journey at OpenBet as the head of UX and transitioned into the director role for product management last year. I have been in the gambling industry for over 10 years before I joined OpenBet. I was working for a B2C supplier. For me, so the shift was more from B2C to B2B. Prior to this, I've worked agency side.
Fabulous. And Jacki, last but not least. Oh, Jacki, you're on mute.
I do this constantly. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm the CEO and founder of a PR agency called Dimoso. It's a PR and marketing agency that really specializes in tech and mobile games and anything that really is technology related, but games and apps are basically where we found our sort of spiritual home. I started in tech publishing, actually, and my career started on magazines like Computer Weekly, and then ZDNet, and a load of other publications before moving into software development, publishing and republishing, where I ran coding teams and did everything a small publisher would do. And then moved into PR, which was my favorite part of that whole process of marketing software. So I sort of come from a mixed tech publishing background before I started in PR, and this is my third PR agency.
Amazing. Thank you, Jackie. Yes, and it's lovely that you all have completely different backgrounds, which we love to promote on our webinars, of all of the different types of roles that are in tech, and especially just within the gaming industry. You all come from completely different backgrounds and have very, very different roles, which is great to see. So we have got a lot to get through. So we're going to kick off with our discussion today with our first question. So why do you think there is still a lack of women in the gaming industry, and what challenges are they facing? Maria, can we go to you first, please?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I agree that there is definitely a lack of representation. And when we are talking about gamers, we're getting to 50%. I think according to the latest stats, it's around 48% of gamers are women. But when it comes to people who actually make games, then it becomes much lower. So like 20%, 22% of game developers. But if we are talking about, for instance, game designers, sometimes it's even lower numbers. And I think it may be like connection of two reasons, like two main areas. First one is not particularly something about gaming, but the tech industry in general. And it's known that the tech industry is male dominated and stereotypically more like, if you think about a software developer, the first thing that comes in mind, usually it's a guy. So lack of representation may stop women from entering this industry in the beginning. I think in last years, this has been improved dramatically because more and more girls are entering the market and also work as software developers and study. And there is like, once they start the career, there is another milestone that happens later. And I feel like it happens quite a lot. I've seen it happening with women in the middle of their career. So if you go from junior positions further to more senior people, there are less women, and there starts a drop off of talent from the industry for multiple reasons, of course, but also for, well, tech industry is notorious for sometimes long working hours, crunches, which is not very family friendly. So when we are in like middle of our career, and women are usually like much more tend to be main caregivers for kids or relatives that need it, and also can contribute into that. So this is kind of tech in general, so it's not particularly gaming. But then we have another part that is connected to our industry, and then it's maybe not the most welcoming feel that sometimes gaming communities can give. So if you think about, for instance, streaming, esports, it can be not very welcoming for women. Women gamers there, and if women are not feeling very welcome in the community, it's also less motivation to go and make the games, I feel. So that's
yes, yeah. I definitely agree. What I'm wondering though is, Katja, you moved up the ranks. you're in leadership. Is that something that you've noticed as well though? The more that you moved up, there were just less women in gaming.
Yes, I definitely echo what Maria said. Overall, we are in the tech industry. There's definitely kind of women are underrepresented, and definitely, yeah, where I moved, like it was not many women around, and I never found it really hard. But what I think what we can do, our companies can do, is really selling the variety of the jobs that they're actually in there, because you don't have to be a software developer. There's so many different roles available, and that's really down to the company to how can we sell what's on offer. Being like, I'm a mom of two, like one of them is a girl, and like I wish even within the schools we would expose a lot more in terms of the type of jobs that exist, because I know what they are getting told at the careers they get. Police comes in, and like in terms of what gets even like shown at school is a lack of really tech showing. So this is obviously also on us to be able, like, we should bring this back to like really to the younger generation, but there's such a variety of roles available. And my main advice would be, and this is also moving up the ranks, don't be afraid, right? So there's this whole thing about imposter syndrome, but go for it, try it out. Like, no one will shout at you if you get it wrong, right? Learn from your mistakes and take it from there.
Yes, exactly. And that variety of roles there is something that we picked out at the start there. Jackie, because you work in PR, you see a variety of roles. Do you think, as Katja was saying, that's one of the challenges? People just don't know the variety of roles available.
And just like Katja, I have a child too at school, and if my school teachers would have thought for a minute that I would have a career in tech, part of a sort of tech landscape, they'd have laughed me all the way to, you know, to the job centre. They'd have said, no way would you, with the qualities that you have, be able to work within technology. They wouldn't have sort of matched me. And the one thing I'm very passionate about and I go in as a guest lecturer to various different universities and talking to young women, talking about their careers, as I passionately talk about the options that they have with the skill sets they have to open the door into any kind of company. It shouldn't hold you back, the fact that a company has technology in its labeling, to approach that company, because your skill sets can apply to many different roles within that company. So when I talked to a girl, I was just talking to a girl today actually who'd been on one of my courses, and she asked me for an hour of my time, and I was saying, you know, she said to me, what advice would you give to anybody coming in? And I said, seriously, just look at your passion and then see where technology is happening in that passion, because there's
instead of the other way around.
There's games, there's fash tech, there's prop tech, there's all sorts of, but tech is where it's at.
Yes, I agree. And I think, just going with your passion just works so much easier than thinking I have to know which role to apply for, or, you know, which area to move into in gaming, which doesn't always help. I mean, Berivan, you transitioned into gaming only recently. And was there something that you thought about the industry that was quite different before you got in? Did you think there were going to be challenges, and then, you know, what even drew you to the industry?
I was expecting to have lots of challenges, so I prepared myself, to be honest. And I agree, traditional gender stereotypes and social expectations often associate gaming with masculinity, and these stereotypes can discourage girls and women from pursuing gaming as a career or participating in the industry. And also, I agree, the underrepresentation of women in the gaming industry perpetuates a cycle where female role models and mentors are scarce. And this absence of representation can make it challenging for women to envision themselves in the gaming careers, because we have not many role models to follow. And also online gaming spaces can be hostile and unwelcoming, with sexism, harassment, and discrimination. Women often face gender-based harassment, which can create unwelcoming atmosphere and discourage them from fully participating or pursuing careers in the industry. But efforts are being made to address these challenges and increase gender diversity within the gaming industry. And we should see ourselves responsible for the future generations and next generations. So we should promote diversity in game development, especially, and combat toxic behavior, and provide support and mentorship opportunities for women in gaming. There's still improvements are being made, and I am hopeful that we will see better days.
Yes, I just love everything you suggested there. Also, you mentioned stereotypes and toxic environments. That tends to be as well, ladies who game feel like, you know, that is the culture that they game in. However, I take it that is absolutely not the case when you get into tech and you work in tech gaming. I mean, I highly doubt you feel that way at Riot Games.
No, it was way better than I expected. I never felt, I never felt unwelcomed or anything. Everyone was very friendly, and I feel very valued and member. I started as an intern, by the way. First, I applied for an internship position, and then even when I was an intern, I was seen as an engineer, a member of the team, and my ideas were very valuable. And I felt like I have a real impact on everything in production, which was great. That's why I feel like I can pursue my career in this company, in the gaming, because they see me, and they see me as a valuable member in the team. So I think this environment, creating this supportive and inclusive environment, is crucial for women to pursue a career in the gaming.
Yes, definitely. And you transitioned into tech. Obviously, it wasn't your first career, but obviously a way to get more women working in tech is to encourage more young girls to go into the gaming industry. And Berivan, can I ask you, how do you think we can encourage more girls into the gaming industry, and what more do you think companies can do?
Yeah, I think the first step is to create an inclusive and supportive environment that challenges traditional gender stereotypes. For example, we collaborate with schools, community organizations, nonprofits to develop educational programs that celebrate and promote women in gaming, and introduce girls to gaming and coding and game development. And these initiatives can help break down barriers and spark interest in the industry at an early age. Also highlighting successful women in gaming through media, events, and mentorship programs can provide aspiring girls with relatable role models. This representation can inspire and encourage them to pursue careers in the industry. And yeah, we should strive for equal opportunities for all employees, ensuring fair hiring practices, promoting diversity, eliminating gender biases. So yeah, for example, this workshop, I think it is very valuable, so we can share our experiences and encourage you all. Providing this networking environment is very important because it is vital in the industry as well. So yeah, they can contribute to a broader cultural shift and make a positive impact on the industry as a whole.
Yes, there's definitely still more that companies can do. Jackie, I can see you nodding along to everything that Berivan is saying, particularly on the networking side of things. That must really help women in gaming, mustn't it? Just to feel like, even to have that chat of, you know what, you're not the only one that feels the way that you feel.
It's really important, and it's something that, I mean, I'm very lucky to have a close group of very significant women friends who all play their part in the games industry. And one of the things that we're really passionate about is encouraging other women through and making sure that we are inclusive as a band of women in the games industry. And I think that's really something that has to be at the top of your mind when you're there. It's not just fighting for your own place, it's fighting for everybody else's place. And for the networking side of things, just being involved in some of the great events that are there and easily attended, like Games Forum, like Pocket Gamer, White Nights, going to some of these events. And there are lots of, if you're a student, there's always student passes available. And, you know, there are lots of opportunities. And now all those events are now including their own particular tracks around women and diversity in games as well. So everybody is trying to get ahead of this, but participation and networking is really key to that as well. It's all very well everybody pushing for it, but we need people to come and be part of these things and enjoy and talk and collaborate. And that's the beautiful thing about this games industry, because it's one of the most collaborative industries I know. So we should take advantage of that.
Yes, I completely agree. And just coming together, I mean, Berivan, you mentioned it as well about, and Jackie, you just touched upon it there, just sharing your stories with other women in networking opportunities. But also, you know, when we are encouraging more girls to come into the gaming industry, as you said there, just people participating and feeling that they have a story to share is a great thing. I think sometimes ladies don't realize that they have a wonderful story to share about how they got into the industry, and that other people want to hear it. Maria, what do you think that we can do to encourage more girls into the gaming industry?
Yeah, I think sharing our stories is a very great thing to do, but I would want to see like we should be heroes, but not exactly, because there is this feeling always when you come into industry that requires like a lot of knowledge and experience that you need to be ideal right away, right?
Yeah.
And for women, we have this tendency. So until I'm ideal, I'm not even trying. So I will come when I'm ready. So just sharing those stories that no one is ever ready, and it's like a lot about failing and trying again and gaining a lot of experience. So you don't need to be something to start. You always can just grow as you go and like just move and not be afraid that you're going to be judged or you're going to be rejected based on something that you don't know yet or you haven't had that experience yet. So just you're creating this atmosphere of like kind of learning as you go instead of just trying to show your abilities, right?
Yes, I completely agree. How many times we had that ladies just think, you know, I have to hit all of the requirements on a job spec to apply. Katja, is that something that you have seen in leadership when you're hiring, that actually you don't get a lot of ladies hiring, or you know they or you might even have people internally who think actually I don't think I'm great for that role, and you're probably screaming at them saying you should just go for it anyway.
Yes, so I'm in the luxury position that I'm working with user experience and product managers and owners. So the gender balance is a lot more balanced than it is elsewhere in the company. So from that sense, that end, it's actually right. I get a good balance, but I can definitely kind of agree that women just generally don't kind of put themselves up. So yeah, I can do it. So it's really just this bit more confidence, and you can go with this. Just trust yourself. I think a big one of this is kind of, how can I get into this? Because it's tough if you don't know anyone, or if you haven't really heard of it. And I think Berivan has a really great way into it. You got into the industry by an internship, right? So there are plenty of trainee programs and internships. Yes, you need to search around, but they exist, right? It's a good way of getting your foot in and understanding for yourself, is this something you enjoy, right? As long as you know what you do, you enjoy, you find a passion for what you do, you will be happy, right? So this is really important. Like maybe that isn't the right for you, but you will only find out if you do it. So it's, yes, you need to kind of make the step, but there are plenty of opportunities that you can take up. And equally, like there's things like hackathons as well. You can join, and it allows you quite non-committal to join one off and find out a bit more about it.
Yes, exactly. Just to see whether or not you're going to enjoy it in a risk-free environment, especially if you're going to, you know, take up courses or boot camps or start paying out for training. You at least want to know that it's definitely a career that you want to go into. That's brilliant advice. I mean, in terms of, you know, skills for career in gaming, Jacki, can I go to you on what do you think are the most important skills for a career in gaming? Because you know, we've already touched on it a little bit. Women always seem to think I have to have all of the skills that are required. Do you have to be really technical, or is that just one part of the job?
You know what? One of the women I hold up as being great in this industry, because she's a great example of somebody who has gone from business into product, is Liat Bearer at Audio. And I think she's been on, or she's coming up on one of your podcasts at some stage.
I think so, yeah.
She would be a good.
If not, we'd love her.
But she's great, because she literally used her skills of being able to, what she calls, translate from the product through to the business, and to get each one of those talking to each other. And so it doesn't matter, you know, whether you come from a business, if you can move business background, if you can move yourself into product and you see your skills being applicable to those areas, you should put yourself forward and go for that if that's an area that interests you. The other thing is, there are so many careers in games. It's not just engineering, and it's not just data analysis, and it's not just coding. There are so many different careers, and they're changing every day as well. More jobs, more job titles, changing job titles. You know, we've seen community management come up, for example, which is not something we had 10 years ago, but now is a big part of things. So there are so many different opportunities in games, and it's something I try to talk to young people about a lot, because as we've already said, it's not really represented in education, it's not really represented in schools as a great career course. And yet, you know, you've got Warner, you've got Disney, you've got, you know, all these big names all involved, all having their own games. And, you know, everyone doesn't see it as sexy, but, you know, there's a lot of different skill sets that get you into all these different places. So, you know, there will be something for everyone, I promise you.
Yes, I love that. And I absolutely agree with that, because when you think of the gaming industry, you think, oh, I have to be really creative, I have to be an artist, I have to be a designer. And that tends to be the first thing that you think of. And that's kind of it. And Berivan, yourself, did you think that? I mean, what do you think are the most important skills for a career in gaming? Because, you know, did you just think before you came in, I have to be a designer and that's it?
Yeah, I completely agree, Jackie. It is a lot. I realized when I joined the company, when I joined the industry, there is a lot of very different teams that you can be a part of. I am an engineer myself, but there's very different teams that you can be a part of. So for me, I love games, and before I joined the Riot Games, first I tried to make games myself. So I learned how to use Unity, Unreal Engine, learned how to code, because I graduated as an industrial engineer, and I took some coding courses, but it wasn't really computer science degree. So I needed to learn it myself online before I applied for a master's degree. So I was just playing with it, making small games. I joined game jams just for fun. And I realized I didn't like it. I love it. And then I decided to, I am from Turkey, so I decided to change my careers. I quit my job and moved to Ireland, Dublin, for my master's program in the middle of the pandemic. And then I finished my master's and joined Riot Games as an intern. So I am quite surprised, because I am an engineer, but also my background is not very traditional, because I'm not coming from computer science. But especially right now, everything is possible. Like, there are a lot of online resources that you can use to just try out before you really invest. You know, you don't really need to have a university degree to just start doing something. So yeah, I think you really need to first find your passion and just test if you really like it.
Yes, I agree. And on the skills side, actually, I can see somebody in the chat that has asked, what would you say are the main technical skills needed for getting into game coding? Are there any technical skills that you all, you know, took? I mean, Berivan, you said that you took some online. Is there anything that you would really recommend on getting started in terms of technical skills?
Yeah, in terms of technical skills, proficiency in programming languages such as C++, C#, Java, or Python. You don't need to learn everything. You don't need to be very good at it, but you need to have an idea, and you need to practice a little bit. It is really beneficial for many roles in game development, and knowledge of software development practices, algorithms, and data structures are essential. And for making games, you can learn Unity or Unreal Engine. There are lots of free resources on the internet, and there are lots of game jams. Game jams are like, most of them are kind of competitions for 24 hours, or you have limited time, 24 hours or 48 hours. And in the middle of the event, they share a team with you, and you need to make a game in 24 hours with that team. So it is very challenging, but it is super fun. So I really recommend, if you are interested in technical side and more engineering side of the things, you can try those.
Amazing, amazing. And Katja, from your side, I suppose, as Jackie was saying as well, there are lots of skills needed in just being able to communicate and just being able to talk about the product that you work on and how it works, and to be able to communicate with your customers?
I think a lot of this boils down to really understand what you enjoy doing. So only because you went down one path doesn't mean that you have to do it for the entirety of your life. So it's just over time, learn what makes you tick, what works really well for you. And if you find your passion, just kind of really invest in it and do more for it. Or like, this is like, I think Berivan gave a really good example, because she did this for fun and then did more on this. And I can kind of very similar on my own careers. Like at no point did I think like this is what I'm doing now I would end up with. It's just over time, like I focused on the things I really enjoyed, and then one thing leads to the other one.
Yes, because I suppose, and there is around the industry itself, as you say, you have to enjoy it, and you have to ensure that you enjoy working in the industry. But there is a stigma as well around a career in gaming, and whether or not it is a viable, sensible career choice. And somebody has actually hit the nail on the head in the Q&A as well. They've asked, why do you think there are death threats to game developers sometimes? And does this concern you? Katja, do you think that there is that stigma around a career in gaming, and whether or not women even want to work in it, and whether or not, you know, they would receive such messages?
Actually, don't really think that's true. Like right at the beginning, this is what Maria said. So overall, like we almost have part in terms of who's gaming. It's almost equal. Like women game as much as men game. So is there a stigma? I don't really think so. I think this is rather kind of, oh, this is tech, it's probably not me. So I don't think we can kind of put this down to the industry. I think it's rather kind of a general kind of disparity between, oh, this is the field for women or not for women.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I think the issue of toxicity and death threats, I think that our industry, the games industry, has probably tackled that kind of that happening, and it does happen quite a lot within different forums and within games themselves. And I think our industry has actually tried to tackle that head on, with, you know, a lot of advice, a lot of, as I talked about before, the community managers and people working within the games trying to moderate and make sure these things don't happen. And, you know, I've represented companies who've had threats, and had people literally outside their offices demonstrating about changes they've made in games. I mean, it's ridiculous, because people get very passionate about the games they play, and they become part of their lives, and they absorb them into their own personality. And if they're great games, it really becomes something that, you know, you dream of and you wake up thinking of playing. So, you know, it becomes something that's very important to people, and that comes back to communication. And if there's one thing women do better than most things, it's communication, and that's one thing we can really help with moderation and working through, you know, those kind of extreme situations. But those are very extreme situations.
Yes, I agree. I think there are stories that perhaps people latch onto, and as you say, they are extreme. But as a few of our panelists have mentioned today, that's not actually the case. Sometimes working in tech is not always the experience of when you're gaming yourself and you might see, you know, comments coming in. It's very different when you actually work in the industry and develop games. And I can't imagine any of you would say that you have experienced that toxic environment at your own companies as women in tech. Maria, I wanted to ask you a little bit on that note as well, moving on to, do you have any advice for those looking to get into the gaming industry? And I suppose touching upon that, is there anything that you wish somebody had told you before you'd got in?
So I think something that we have already mentioned, that games is like such a broad field, right? So in a way, it's a form of art. I truly believe in that. To create something beautiful, it comes a lot of different people with very different backgrounds. It's like starting from software engineers, like up to like musicians, artists, writers. So people who are not very much connected to the tech industry, right? So you will never think about it. So that's something that I would like suggest to do, and think what are possibilities. Maybe think and look in the companies that you like and the games you like, what kind of people are doing those games. So after each game you have titles, right? So you have the huge list of people who were involved in creating that piece. So you can just see what different profiles are there and what you can do about that. And then once you already know what do you want to do, there's also, well, first of all, of course, internships, and a lot of gaming studios are doing that. So I think that's very valuable. Different communities, because sometimes it's very easy to find some also internships or entry-level jobs from people you know, and then they know you. But also, I personally know a couple of stories when people will start their career in a game community. So just being a very active player, participate and taking more and more responsibilities in the community. Yeah. And I remember that a colleague of mine who ended up being a product manager and leading actually development of a game, starting from just being very active in forums, because he really liked it and he felt like that's the way to go. So I think that, and also one more advice that I usually give to everyone, because that was kind of my story. So if you don't have a lot of relevant experience and a lot of like maybe even confidence, don't shoot for big companies right away, and maybe start with some smaller studios, with startups, because usually it's much easier to get there in the first place, but also once you're there, because those companies are so small and they need to move so fast. So you kind of become jack of all trades right away. So you get exposed to a lot of things that you won't necessarily be exposed in a big company right away. So you can test waters, what exactly do you want to do, and like which side of the career you want to take. So that's something that happened with me, because I started basically with like doing a bit of digital marketing for the companies, but then because it was a very small company, I also was responsible for analyzing the data for the campaigns we were running. And at that moment I was, that's exactly what I want to do. So I like the data much more, so I could kind of shape my career in that direction, which I wouldn't necessarily know if I want to start with that, like more responsibilities and more open like job description, basically.
Yeah, and that's fantastic actually, because somebody touched upon that in our Q&A. They said that they're located in Stockholm, and they were talking about the opportunities available, and they've said, do you have any recommendations of what steps to take to be a possible candidate for a position that requires 2+ years professional experience? And it is always that rock and that hard place of not having the experience and trying to find a good opportunity. But as your great advice there, look for the smaller companies and the startups, and the amount of responsibility and the types of roles that you would be exposed to in a startup are very, very different to the bigger companies. So yeah, that's great advice. I
actually also happen to be in Stockholm. So that's
coincidence.
I can do that. Yeah, so we have pretty big gaming market in town, and I know that a lot of companies, they have internships as well. So I would strongly recommend looking into that, because at my company, for instance, we very regularly have internships for half a year, and for a lot of people it's just like entrance to the company itself. But even if they don't end up working there, they still walk away with this experience and exposure. And yeah, so there are also plenty of small studios in Stockholm that I know of.
Fantastic. And Berivan, you mentioned that you started in an internship. Do you have any advice that you would share? You know, somebody was looking to get into the gaming industry. I'm assuming you're going to say take up an internship.
Yes, and it is. I think one of the most important advices is that join lots of events, workshops, career events, networking events. And actually, I met with my current manager at one of those events. When I was a student, a master's student, I was in a student club, and we organized a game conference event, and we invited multiple gaming companies, and they had presentations for the participants, and I was one of the hosts. And I kind of choose the companies, and I kind of use these positions on my advantage and choose the companies that I want to learn more about. And I met with my current manager during that event, and I listened to him, learn about the company, and learned about Riot Games, learned about their team. it is cloud infrastructure engineering, and it was really interesting. And after the event, I connected with him and constantly checked Riot Games career page to see if they have any open positions, any internship positions. And yeah, that's how I find my positions and then transitions to a permanent role. So I think these events are very, very important because networking is crucial in the industry. So yeah, find your passion, prepare your portfolio, and attend lots of events, talk to people, ask for advice, find mentors, and most of the people are very happy to help out because they know it is difficult to find the dream job. So yeah, I think for example, this webinar, this workshop is really beneficial as well, I believe. So yeah.
Yeah, and our Q&A today actually echoes that. So many people were asking, do you know of any good networking groups or any support groups that would be good for people to join? Jackie, can you pitch in on that? Are there any great networking groups that our listeners should consider joining?
100%. I think where you find out information, because I'm now aware that we have a viewership from all over the world, probably. I would go to industry organisations in your geography. So in the UK, we've got associations like UKI, and they usually know, and they very much encourage women in the industry as well. They usually know of all the events that are coming up. They've got their own events coordinator. So that's one thing you can do. Eventbrite, I know it sounds really mad, but I was in Dubai a couple of weeks ago for Pocket Gamer Connects Dubai, and I was trying to set up my own event in UK, and I defaulted to Dubai, and suddenly all these networking things for games were coming from my Eventbrite, and I was like, what? Take a look at this. So it doesn't take a lot of hunting around in your Google or whatever browser you're using to find out networking events. Attending things like this, as you said, and also reading. Read. Get the newsletters. Get your gamesindustry.biz, your Pocket Gamer Connects, your anything that you enjoy reading. Keep reading it, because they always have things that are popping up in events and that sort of thing. So there are lots of ways of finding out. It does take a bit of activity, but the industry organisations is a good tip because they are all about encouraging diversity.
Yes, and there are lots of questions in here about, so many are asking about organisations and courses. Somebody's saying, I have a daughter who's interested in gaming and tech. Do you know of organisations, courses, events for younger women? Katja, have you been to any interesting gaming events for women or any networks that you've been a part of?
So something what I know, like our own company does quite often are meetups. So we host meetups as well, and that's great for us because like we host the meetups in the location of our office. So we did meetups in Athens, we did this in London. We also hosted hackathons. So it's the specific one. I would just search for meetup and put in whatever you're interested in, because lots of companies do host this, because it's a great way for you to get a sneak peek in what this company looks like. Lots of different people will be in there. Will be always different topic, right? So you can also choose if you're into the topic. But this is, and it's also a nice way of getting some free food and drinks.
That's never a bad thing,
Just a little plug-in. There is a platform that's just been launched by Number 8 and Odeo, which is called womendon'tplay.com, and that's all about women lifting women. So do check that. Do the Google searches on the women in games and those kind of things. There are women in games groups. LinkedIn is very good for that as well.
Amazing, thank you. And Berivan, I wanted to move the conversation a little bit because we're going to run out of time, and I could talk to you ladies for about another 6 hours on this. But Berivan, can I ask you, what future trends do you think we'll see in the gaming industry in the future?
Yeah, the gaming industry is constantly evolving and driven by technological advancements and changing player preferences and market trends. And it is challenging to predict the future with certainty, but I think, for example, VR and AR technologies continue to advance, offering immersive and interactive experiences. We can expect to see further development of VR and AR games, and making them more accessible and appealing to a wider audience. The popularity of esports and competitive gaming, I think, is on the rise, and we can expect continued growth in organized professional tournaments, leagues, esports infrastructure, attracting more players, more sponsors and viewers, and this may lead to increased recognition and mainstream acceptance of esports as a legitimate form of entertainment. And cross-platform gaming, where players can compete and collaborate across different devices and platforms. This trend is likely to continue, enabling players on consoles, PCs, mobile devices, and more to play together seamlessly, and fostering a more unified gaming experience. And of course, mobile gaming has seen tremendous growth in recent years. And it is expected to continue its dominance with the increasing capabilities of smartphones and the accessibility of mobile phones, mobile games. We can anticipate further advancements. So yeah, these could be, I think, a couple of the future predictions, I think.
Amazing. I think that just answered that question very beautifully. What I was thinking though, Maria, I wanted to ask you a little bit about future trends as well, but from what Berivan has said, I'm thinking as well, a lot of those future trends, we're probably not already skilled for those roles yet anyway. So it's such a fast-paced industry, isn't it, the gaming industry? So I'm assuming it's making sure that you stay ahead of the curve and that you move with all of these trends that are coming up that Berivan very beautifully rolled off there.
Yeah, I would just want to add one more, like put in my 5 cents, because I work with data science, that AI is also a big trend. So we're definitely going to see a lot of changes in the gaming industry, especially with large language models and all the generative art that we are now just like kind of unleashing their capability into gaming. And I think we're about to see very immersive and amazing experiences that can be tailored for each individual player potentially, and creating like a next level of open worlds even. So that's...
And I can see Katja nodding along enthusiastically about AI.
Yeah. 100% AI was on my list as well. So it's essentially overall it will grow. It will become more mainstream, but as it becomes mainstream, you also get a lot more diversity. So on the one hand, if one thing gets really, really big, you will have lots of new things popping up. So, and that will be really exciting to see what's there.
Yes. And Jacki, yourself, future trends?
Yeah, I'd agree with all of those, particularly AI. One thing we haven't really talked about is all the kind of ancillary service companies that surround the game makers. So your ad tech companies, your data analytics companies, your translation and localization services, your marketing services. And all of those are rapidly changing with technology trends like AI. And we haven't mentioned blockchain, and we haven't mentioned Web3 and NFTs and cryptocurrency and all of that's coming down the line. So there are a lot of technological changes, but my advice to anybody is, especially women, we all think, oh my God, I have to know everything about everything. I have to really understand all of this. You don't. You have to, yes, of course, keep abreast of everything, but you don't have to understand the nitty gritty and why things are the way they are. You don't have to get into the depths of the code like Berivan would do, but you do have to kind of stay above and across it all to really sort of, understand where you could fit in. So it's a real exciting industry, which is it's the cutting edge of technology. It's where all of the changes happen that everybody else in boring old apps and websites follow on. They all look at the games industry to show them the way, and that's why it's really exciting to be part of it.
Yes, I completely agree with what you just said, Jacki. We are almost out of time, ladies, and we're going to do one last thing just for fun, because I have you all on the call. Do you have a favorite game, each of you? So Jacki, let's start with you.
I change my favorite games all the time. As is my wont, because I'm playing all my clients' games all the time. So I'm going to take the fifth on a favorite game of the moment. But my favorite game of the past was Zelda. It's one that really got me into gaming, and Donkey Kong. Love that. Mario. I'm a proper old girly gamer.
But nice, yeah. Katja, yourself.
I have an absolutely favorite game, and actually it's not digital. I need to balance off my digital life, so I enjoy most playing an actual sport outdoors. I play Ultimate Frisbee.
Yay!
Oh. Maria, yourself, do you have a favorite game?
I need to pick one, so I will just back up Zelda right away. That would be my pick.
This is how I actually asked you. Can you narrow it down?
So then I do really enjoy It Takes Two. So it's like relatively fresh, but I think it's an amazing take on collaborative games versus competitive games. And I'm not the most competitive player, so I really enjoy playing it with friends or my partner. And also I have lifelong love to Worms. I don't know if you remember that one, but it's just one of the best. And I have a lot of childhood memories of me and my sister just crashing each other in all those different ways that Worms can do. So.
Amazing. And Berivan, do you have a favorite game?
It looks like Berivan Frozen. Yeah.
I think she was going to say Zelda. Berivan, can you hear us?
Oh, my internet connection is so bad. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. We want to know, what's your favorite game? Are you going to say Zelda? Because everybody else has said Zelda.
I have to say Wild Rift because I'm not saying it's just because it's our game, but lately I'm playing every night, and it really helps me connect with my friends. We're playing with my friends in Ireland and Turkey, and we chat while we are playing, so we really catch up with what's going on in our lives, and it is really fun. And also I think Maria, you said it, I just catch up. It Takes Two. I'm playing it with my partner, and I think it is the best game that you can play with your partner. It is really fun, and I love the game design. If you like solving puzzles and cute games, I really love the game. So yeah, Wild Rift and It Takes Two.
Amazing. Thank you so much, ladies. It's been an absolute pleasure. As I said, I could talk to you for another 6 hours on this topic. So thank you all so much for taking the time out this afternoon to chat with us. And Maria, Katja, Jacki, and Berivan, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been an absolute pleasure. Also, there are so many questions in our Q&A. So for our listeners, we will follow up with some answers to these because there are so many. So thank you so much for getting involved and putting your questions out there. And we will get to some of these tomorrow. You can follow up with us on SheCanCode.io for more webinars and also for a recording of this event as well. So to all of our listeners, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you on the next webinar. And to all of our wonderful speakers, thank you so much. And I will speak to you all soon. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.